So today is the second Sunday of November, which is the day we set aside for remembrance. It's always the second Sunday of November, and this is actually the earliest in the year that you can possibly have Remembrance Sunday, because it's the 8th of November. This is the day when we remember the fallen from our armed forces. But is Remembrance Day and following that the Armistice Day just there to remember heroes? To remember the fallen from the wars, the sacrifice of those who gave their lives for their country? Well, I guess to most people that is what it all means. But I have a different thought. Hence the title, Remembering What? But before I get to that, I want to tell you a little story. When I was in the army, Remembrance Sunday was looked at very differently. You would think that being in the forces, it would have an extra significance, extra impact, be extra special and even more poignant than for the general public. On the contrary, in my experience, most of my colleagues in the army looked on Remembrance Sunday as a royal pain in the butt. We were chosen for the parade. We didn't volunteer. You were picked. It was a duty. You were given very little notice, and you had to ensure your uniforms were perfect. And I don't know if you've seen the uniforms that you tend to wear on these parades, but they give you nice white gaiters that go around the boots, and a nice bright white belt with a big brass buckle on it, which, funnily enough, take hours to get that white and hours to get the brass that shiny. Our boots had to be balled so that the toe caps were like a mirror, so you could literally see yourself in them. Which, in case you don't know, takes a lot of work. And I'll digress slightly here. You have to take a little bit of cotton wool, normally a cotton bud, dip it in water, get some black polish on it, and then you start on the toe cap and you do very small circles. And you just keep doing that over and over and over. And each time you go around, you build another layer of polish. So as you can imagine, you're bent over, hunched over these boots for a good few hours, just doing little circles constantly. It was a back-breaking effort. And when you were thinking that it's coming up to the weekend, I can go home, it becomes even more annoying. Then, to add to that, we had to march through whichever town we're in and finally end up at the local cenotaph, the War Memorial, where we would end up standing at attention for ages while some local windbag waxed poetic about war. Not quite the view the public have of the spectacle. However, during my 13 years in the army, I did this at least 7 or 8 times. And frankly, I did not enjoy a single one of them. I did not feel connected to the experience at all. And the meaning was lost on me amongst the hassle of getting ready, the annoyance of people taking the mickey as you march through a town, and the aching, tired legs and feet during the final ceremony. Not quite the moving experience it should be. That said, it did lead me to think a lot about Remembrance Sunday, about the meaning of it, and what it is we are supposed to remember. To me, it isn't about remembering heroes, soldiers, sailors, airmen, or about remembering wars, conflicts, or other actions around the world. To me, it is about remembering the cost of violence. The cost of violence. That's a huge thing. Because there is a cost to any violence, not just wars, fighting, shooting, but any form of violence, physical, mental. And the cost is not just to the victims of such acts. SJ and I have recently been working our way through our collection of Bones DVDs. For those that don't know, Bones is about an FBI agent called Booth and a forensic anthropologist called Dr. Brennan, who Booth nicknames Bones, hence the title. They work together with a team of people in the Jeffersonian Institute to solve murders. It's all very exciting stuff. But what has that to do with me mentioning the cost of violence? In one of the episodes, Booth talks about being a sniper in the military. And he says that every life you take takes a piece of you with it. I think that he really nailed it with that statement. But I would take it further and say it's not just killing that takes a piece of you. Any form of violence, any act that hurts another person, takes something away from you. It colours who you are inside and changes you. So on Remembrance Day, I think we should try to remember that there is a cost attached to every negative thing we do. Every time we hurt someone else, every time we hurt someone else, we hurt ourselves to some extent. How often have we said or done something that we aren't proud of? I know I have. Then there is that nagging feeling that follows it, that guilt, the inability to forget it. And sometimes it may be that it grows on us more than the person that had the effect. However, we hear in the reading that the gift of Jesus is that sin, guilt and death are gone. So it seems that by following Christ, by accepting him into our lives, we receive this gift and we will not die. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we will all become immortal, live forever, roam the earth like the Cullens in the Twilight Saga, although that would be pretty awesome. But no, I believe it refers to an inner death, where we lose a little piece of ourselves each time we hurt someone, where that cost that I mentioned earlier reaches a point where we have nothing left to pay, where we have lost everything that was good inside us, and all that is left is hurt. We've been completely cleaned out, bankrupt, if you like, by the escalating costs of our actions, and left with a sort of darkness or emptiness inside. Now, that all sounds pretty gloomy. It seems that every time we upset someone, we're going to chip away at our reserves, make a withdrawal from our spirit bank, if you like, and, like cash, fritter it away. But don't panic. It isn't a foregone conclusion by any means. I believe that we can recoup those costs, that we can redress the balance and top up our reserves. By accepting the gift Christ freely gave us, by following his ideals and teachings, we can not only reduce the times we cause hurt to others, but we can actually improve the lives of those around us. We can start chalking up sums in the plus column, if you like. We can start regaining some of those pieces we previously lost. That is the start of a transformation. The start of the true changes that happen in us when we decide to follow Christ. Now, it seems to me that that is a win-win situation, isn't it? If we try and follow the ideals of Jesus Christ, we not only make others' lives better, but we actually help ourselves. We repair any damage done by negative thoughts, words or deeds, and make our own lives more whole as a result. So Remembrance Day to me is not only about those who died. It is about remembering that there is a huge cost for anything negative we do, for any hurt we cause, and that we can make a difference for the better to those around us. And in doing so, we can become whole and happy. I've talked before about how I believe that to be a whole and healthy person, to have life in abundance that was promised to us, we need to fully integrate our spiritual and daily lives. That is what I believe makes us whole as people. So as I said, today is Remembrance Sunday. And I believe we should remember the cost. The cost of violence, the cost of causing harm, the cost of anger, the cost of hurt, the cost of upsetting people, and even the cost of those things to ourselves. If we hold that thought when we're dealing with other people, then surely we can avoid doing these things. We can look to better the lives of those around us. We can avoid developing that emptiness inside, and remain whole individuals. Decent, caring people. We can see others as children of God and love them as such. In short, we can be true followers of Christ, or Christians. Thank you.